Will continue more high-level meetings for President-elect Donald Trump today. This effort of making an interesting pageant of the formation of his cabinet and senior White House staff. He has already announced a couple of picks in key positions. You got Republican Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA director. You got Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Joining us now is Republican Congressman from New York and member of the Homeland Security Committee, Representative Peter King. Congressman, good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving in advance.
You too, Chris. You and your family. Thank you.
So let us scrutinize a couple of these picks. Mike Pompeo, you can talk about his pluses all day long. The concerns are basically that he could be a return to a more invasive past. That wiretapping is good, different torture techniques and waterboarding are good and effective. Do you believe he embraces these types of behaviors?
I believe that Mike Pompeo represents more realistic approaches. I think this president has been too politically correct. And I think what Mike Pompeo is saying, we're up against an existential enemy and that we have to use certain resources we may not have used in the past. Like you'd say, wiretapping. There's nothing illegal about any type of surveillance that Mike Pompeo was talking about. The NSA is essential. FISA is essential. All those are essential weapons to use against ISIS, against Al-Qaeda, against Islamist terrorism. And as far as we're going back to Guantanamo, that's really an old story right now. But waterboarding was used against 3 people, and it was very effective. I supported waterboarding. I would support it today. It is not torture. I don't consider it torture at all. It was used in 3 cases, and it was very effective.
But the finding was that it is torture, and a lot of the intel people said it wasn't effective. It was only effective as a recruiting tool for your enemies because they were telling people you were doing it. Why make this part of his...
Well, I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that, and you have people like Michael Hayden, who was a very respected director of the CIA, who supported it. No, listen, Mike, it's people bringing this up from statements that Mike Pompeo made.
Right.
You asked me about it. I wouldn't have brought up waterboarding, but Mike Pompeo in the past has made statements, which I agree with, by the way, but I also, having worked with him, he's one of the smartest, most intelligent people I've met, first in his class at West Point, graduate of Harvard Law School, an absolutely dedicated guy. He'll be an outstanding CIA director.
And one more beat on the surveillance. The American people seemed fairly unified for us in our understanding collectively that we wanted less of that. We wanted the authorities to have a reason, not just to surveil American opportunities looking for something there, that they should have something they're looking for specifically before they do it.
But they never did that, Chris. They never did that. No, they never did that. They never had open surveillance. What they did was they would intercept, or they would track. In fact, the NSA didn't intercept anything. They would track phone calls made from terrorists overseas to Americans in this country. Then they would go to court, have the Justice Department go to court to get a court order to carry out surveillance. The same which is done against organized crime, against drug pushers, against child pornographers. And that's all that was done. So much of this was exaggerated, overblown. There's not one instance yet of the NSA violating anyone's civil rights.
Can he work with both sides?
Yeah, I've seen that on the Intelligence Committee. And again, I'm not trying to make this confrontational because I've seen Mike Pompeo, and if you talk to Democrats on the Intelligence Committee, who obviously would have some disagreements with some of his policy positions. That's what election's about. I don't think anyone would question his integrity or his intelligence. He's really a good guy. This is not a confrontational guy. He has strong views, but he's going to do an excellent job as CIA director.
Jeff Sessions, you know him less well, but there are concerns about him because of what got him denied for a federal judgeship back in the 80s. Comments about the NAACP, comments about the KKK, active disagreement with aspects of the Voting Rights Act up until present day. Do you believe that these are legitimate concerns for his confirmation?
Well, I know Jeff Sessions to talk to him. I find him to be a very decent guy, very honorable guy. I talk to senators on both sides who have a lot of respect for him. You know, you can always take a comment that somebody made 35 or 40 years ago. You know, I grew up in Queens, and I think of all ethnic remarks that were made in that time 40, 50 years ago, and if they were used against someone today, there's different contexts, different times. You look at his record, it's been, as far as I can tell, there's been no racism or bias whatsoever, and as far as, let's say, disagreeing with parts of the Voting Rights Act. Those, to me, you can have legitimate debates over that as to how long certain aspects of that act should stay in place, how long it should apply to certain states. That doesn't mean you're against voting rights. That, to me, is part of an honest debate. You may disagree with it, but I don't see any element of Jeff Sessions, of any racism at all in his record for the entire time he's been in public life. And if a person comes from a part of the country which has had, obviously, racial issues in the past, and all they could come up with is one or two comments he may have made or may not have made 40, 45 years ago, to me, let's look at the entire package. I mean, I can find people in public life on all sides, if you held them to every remark that was ever made, and especially even the remark about the KKK. That, to me, was obviously a put down of the KKK. It was a joke. In no way was that endorsing it. And to take that seriously, I mean, that's the type of thing that would be probably said on Saturday Night Live every week, and people would think it was great humor.
Well, it's one thing when it's a comic saying it. It's another one when it's a member of Congress. But point noted, Congressman Peter King, again, the best to you and your family for Thanksgiving. Anybody from Queens is always welcome on this show.
Here you go. Here you go, Chris. Thank you.
Allison.
How about Jersey people?
No.
Yes. College football fans were treated to a first over the weekend, the oldest player ever to hit the gridiron. So what pushed Joe Thomas Sr. to hit the field? We're going to ask him next.
Thighs
Where will the lead take us today? Straight to the source.
Would Israel be willing to go along with those demands?
To a side you haven't seen.
That sounds a young man's game.
All the way to the heart of a problem.
What is going on in Ferguson, Missouri, in downtown America?
Maybe all the way to the president.
Do you think you were naive back then?
The Lead with Jake Tapper. Weekdays at 4.